What's up, everybody? It's Coach Dave, and I lift.
And this is Coach Meg, and I lift. Welcome to She Lifts.
He Lifts podcast, and tonight we are talking about some oldies but goodies. Okay, these are things that I keep hearing, and I've heard on and off over the years, and they're like things that I feel like have been debunked. Most of them at this point, at least that they're at the very best half true, if not completely
debunked, but they still hang around.
Right. I don't get it, and some of them I will say. Some of it is the age of the internet,
mm-hmm.
and everyone wants to make their point. And we did. If you didn't check it out, Cameron and I did a show about that a couple weeks ago about some of the very outrageous things that get said around here. But these are slightly less outrageous, and it's funny because a lot of these things almost kind of make sense. So we're going to get into it, and we're going to talk about some of these things that we've heard on and off. And I'm going to start off with one of the things that this does kind of drive me nuts, and that is there are 3 body types. There are ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph. They all have to do with your height, your sort of your body structure, and your portions. And then when you get into that, it actually takes it further into the way you actually process and digest carbs and proteins and things like that. Okay, so first of all, it is. I think we have pretty much debunked that one at this point. But there is some the thing that makes it true to me is that everybody's body does process carbs, protein. Some people are taller. Some people have broader shoulders. Some people are built differently. But you can't. There's not just 3 ways that people are built.
If it explains anything, if you put the 3 body types in front of me and asked me to label them, I wouldn't be able to do it.
I couldn't do it either.
And just because it's a debunked thing. There was no need for me to research those different body types because it doesn't matter. You don't train differently in any kind of way.
I looked into it, and I'll be honest, I looked into it because I wanted to see what the deal was, and and there was some, and again, some of it does make sense, like the one, and I can't remember which one was which, but again, it comes to common sense. And it comes to the thought of it, like if you are really tall, and like your squat form is going to be, and your squat angles, and you're going to be a little different than someone who's like my size, who's 5'8", and got narrower shoulders, versus someone who's 6'2", 6'3". Their angles are going to be a little different when they squat, when they deadlift, when they get like that. If you're that tall, sometimes you have to deadlift from stack your bar on plates. Or
and even then, I wouldn't even categorize them in a body type. I would just say you have longer femurs, longer arms, so we have to position you and cue you up way differently. I wouldn't even say you're an ectomorph.
And
I've never said that.
It's probably the first time you've ever used that word, isn't
it?
All right.
Is now.
It is now, right? So the next one that I talked about was, how about this one? How about we shouldn't eat after a certain time? And I've heard everywhere from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
And even that's relative to the person. Like, why are you saying 6 p.m.? Or is that going based off of, I know we talked earlier, most people go to bed 9:30. So is the 7 p.m. based off of that, like the general population? I mean, not everybody is the general population.
And I think that's what it boils down to, because when you really dive into this, they say research going to bed on a truly full stomach, like I just ate dinner, meaning a full 500 calorie meal for me,
right?
Is not a great idea for your diet, and it's more for digestion. It really doesn't have to do with a lot with weight gain, but it does have more to do with the way you're digesting, plus your sleep quality and all of these other things. So if you look and do the research, it generally says about an hour and a half to 2.5 hours before you go to bed.
That's typically what I do for the soul, not even for any scientific reason other than that's how I sleep the most comfortably.
And
I want to go to bed after eating like imagine eating a full meal and then going and laying down. It's just there. And it hasn't even started to digest. You're just eating sleeping on a full stomach.
Right, and I think that has more to do with it than anything else. The idea of you eat the closer you eat before you go to bed. Even that, the truth of weight gain has to do more with what you're eating before you go to bed.
Oh yeah.
Back when I weighted tables when I was in my late teens, early 20s. I used to get off of work at 11 o'clock at night, stop by Taco Bell on my way home, and then go to bed
Eat and then go to
45,
bed.
45 minutes later.
And at that point, you probably weren't super intentional about like your fitness or health or anything like
Oh,
that. You're
not
just
even
you're
a little
hungry,
bit.
so you're gonna go eat.
Right, and that's what was open.
Right, exactly.
But again, and it wasn't the other part of that back again. Like back then, I wasn't super intentional about my health and fitness. So even eating that late at night, even though I was eating not, I don't want to say not the best quality, I was eating pretty terrible quality of food. I wasn't eating for hours before that because I
Right.
was working.
I've even heard, just like in the past, I don't that question comes up sometimes with clients, like how long before bed should I eat? But I've even heard things say that like you shouldn't go to bed on an empty stomach.
I know I've heard bodybuilders before talk about having a protein shake right before bed, and there's actually is some I did do some on that, some studying on that
It's a
too.
certain type of protein.
It is a certain type of protein, and it is a certain type of things that you should eat, like eating. Um, some people say casein protein, some people say a whey protein, um, and then a little bit of like berries.
Casein is the way I describe that is like I would compare it to like an extended release
Mm-hmm.
medicine. It's just supposed to digest slower.
It does, and according to what I've discovered and what I've learned and stuff, they say that you can raise your amino acid profiles for 3 to 4 hours versus whey, which is about 90 minutes or I'm sorry, 60 to 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why when you drink a whey protein shake, it feels like you're hungry right afterwards.
Yeah.
But again, there's something, and there's some people that say you shouldn't do that either. But again, I think some of that also comes into, and there's a lot of this in fitness, is what works for you.
I was going to say that is a lot of, there's no, especially in fitness, there's no one size fits all. Like I'm sure if Dave and I sat down and compared what we eat daily, what time we eat, whatever, it's not the same, but we also don't live, you have 3 kids, I have no kids.
Right.
You have to, probably prep a little bit more than I do because in the snap of a finger, I can go run to the grocery store
Mm-hmm.
and cook food or whatever. Like I run strictly off of my schedule only. You run off of yours, your girlfriends, your 3 kids, like you run off of multiple schedules. So it's just a matter of if you can get this shake in right now rather than eating McDonald's, that's what's going to work for you.
That and it does, and people, and I have heard before that people have said that I eat or I drink a lot of protein shakes, and I probably drink 2 to 3 a day. But you're right. I'm going, and the other factor is like you said, yeah, I'm running about with everybody's schedule. Keep in mind, I also run to throughout the week to multiple locations.
Right.
So there's a good, there is no one answer to what time you should stop eating, other than I would say a little bit before you go to bed.
Right.
At the minimum an hour. I'm with you. I don't want to go to bed feeling full.
So even with,
but not hungry either.
I do. So protein shakes are a staple in your diet.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in mine.
Right.
I couldn't even tell you the last time I had a protein shake. A couple weeks ago, probably.
Right.
And it was just because that day I didn't have my food prepped, and that's what I had access to. But for me, protein shakes are more like they're convenience for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll drink protein shakes on days like that when I didn't come fully prepared. Otherwise, I'm sure you would agree, you'd rather eat food.
Absolutely.
Than a shake.
Absolutely.
But that's what you have time for, so that's what you have to do.
All right. What's one you've heard recently?
Myth?
Yeah, myth slash maybe there's a slight bit of truth to it, but
I hear it. I have heard it my whole entire career that lifting makes you bulky, which is literally the barrier of like what gets some females into the gym, where they're like, oh, well, I don't want to lift weights because I don't want to look like a dude. And I tell people, it takes like multiple conversations before they get this through their head. You would have to eat in a caloric surplus for months and years on end for you to ever be bulky, how they're thinking in their head. And even that takes intention and effort, and you have to be intentional to make yourself be bulky. Going through a bulk phase is hard.
Going through a bulk phase is ridiculously hard.
Yeah, and
It's
it's like some people when they go through a bulk phase, they feel like they're. I mean, I'm thinking of bodybuilders specifically, but when they bulk, they're like, God, I feel like all I'm doing is eating, and it takes so much food
uh-huh.
and surplus to actually get bulky. Where in reality, lifting is going to tone your muscles, burn fat, and do exact opposite. As long as you're eating in like a maintenance or a deficit, you're
Right.
not going to get
And
bulky.
most people, and I'm not just gonna pick one. I want to say all people don't have the discipline to. When you say bulky, you talk about like having extreme muscle definition and separation. You don't have the discipline to eat in a caloric
Surplus.
surplus or deficit to get to that.
And not even that. A lot of people, so there's like, I guess it's like fitness slang, but a dirty bulk. Like some people, not even bodybuilders. This is like people that
Uh
just use the gym, just go to the gym, not casually, regularly, but
huh.
just for not stepping on stage or anything like that. They'll go through like a bulk, and I think, in my opinion, they just use it to excuse.
Extended periods of cheat meals.
Yes, like you're not doing. If you actually do a true bodybuilding bulk, you're still eating clean. You're just eating more rice, more chicken, more oatmeal, more this, more that. It's not.
Probably more carbs.
Yeah, and it's not. I'm gonna eat Chick-fil-A 3 times this week because I'm bulking. Like, no, that's a
No,
dirty
that's
bulk.
right. That's a dirty bulk, and dirt. So we talked about that on the show a long time ago. I have actually seen people dirty bulk and end up with an injury. First of all, because they're not, like you said, they're eating fast food or they're eating pizza or they're
Yeah.
eating a lot of things that you normally wouldn't eat, which are not and they're missing vital nutrients. Then they get hurt, and now they're on top of it. They can't get to the gym. So even if they don't gain extra weight, they're going to lose at least muscle definition and
Yep.
strength from not working out, and it ends up it usually doesn't end well for most people.
And it's also the same thing as steroids or something like that. People think that, I mean, there's so many people in the gym that aren't doing a show, but
Mm-hmm.
they use extra stuff, and that's fine. That's on them, whatever. But that doesn't mean, oh, I'm taking this injection so I can just not lift. Like, it's
Well,
not a magic thing. But also the bulk, if you're eating in a surplus but you're eating crap, you're just doing yourself a disservice. You're not going to get where you think that you're going to get in your head. It still needs to be mostly clean.
but the myth that lifting weights makes you bulky, like you is so. I'm going to give you guys some perspective. I am 5'8", 180 pounds. I lift heavy, and I go through periods where I lift lighter because I've talked about that. But and higher rep, which is almost another one I could throw into this because I still hear that. Um, but I lift what 5 sometimes 6 times a week. I'm not bulky. No one's gonna mistake me for a bodybuilder.
Yeah. I mean, even somebody said to me once, this was like years ago, I looked completely different, but they were like, I don't want to look like you, saying that I was bulky. And even at that point in my life, I was carrying around a little bit extra weight, but you could tell that I worked out.
That's funny to me because
But I didn't look bulky. And in my opinion, I was offended by it because I'm like, I don't think you can look at me and be like, she's like overly bulky and non-feminine anymore.
even when you were getting ready for your bodybuilding show,
I didn't
you
give
didn't you never looked not feminine. You never looked bulky.
right.
And honestly, until I saw you one day practicing posing, I didn't even notice because you wear a t-shirt or your hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't even notice that you had gotten that lean until I saw you in your stage clothes.
Yeah.
Like it was so like again, you had to do a shit ton of work to get that.
Right. A ton of lifting and stuff like that, and I still didn't
And
get
watching what
bulky.
you're eating, yep.
Yeah. I mean, and even now, like,
The discipline that takes is, we talked about it last week, is so ridiculous that most people who are coming in here for general fitness reasons, they're just not going to do it. I don't care how much you lift. I don't care how much stronger you get.
yeah. And I'll be honest with you, I did not have a life when I was doing prep, but that was fine for me because I enjoyed that part of my life where I was just focused on me. I mean, it's just not sustainable long term for me. Not knocking anybody else that does it.
How about, you've ever heard anyone ask you about how much is too much water?
I have people say, if I recommend a gallon of water, well, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can do that. It's just that's a lot of water. I'm going to be peeing all the time, blah, blah, blah. So, yes.
Okay. I've actually had people come to me, and this was a thing a while ago. I'm going to say probably the first time I heard it was in the early 2000s about, oh, you have to watch how much, don't, all of these recommendations for drinking a gallon of water, half your body weight, whatever the magic number is, it can be bad. It can lead to water poisoning. I actually had someone ask me about that about 3 months ago. I'm like, first of all, no. Secondly, stay off the
I
internet.
did have somebody once. This was when I was a server at Outback, and I just had it, or not at Outback, IHOP, and it was a very short term job. I just did it for extra money, and I had my gallon with me, and another girl that I worked with said, "Why are you drinking that much water? Water? Did a doctor tell you to do that?"
Right.
And I was sitting there just mind blown because I don't know why people think that they need a doctor to tell them to drink that much water. But also, it's just what are you drinking? Are you even hydrated?
Right. I'll tell you what, I swear to God, most people don't even know when they're dehydrated.
No,
They really don't. And I
until
think
it's too late.
until you're dehydrated, right?
Right.
So the idea of drinking too much water is, first of all, you have to, I did the research on this. You have to drink a liter of water for about 8 per hour, which is a lot of water,
Yeah.
for about 8 hours straight while not replacing electrolytes
To dehydrate.
to have what's quote unquote water poisoning. Drink too much water, and that
Oh,
can
okay.
it can actually overhydrate, and basically you drown from the inside out. Okay, it can happen. The other thing is you have to not expel water.
So not
No,
pee.
you're not going to the bathroom,
Okay.
basically. So it can happen.
It's just super
The
rare.
one, it's super duper rare. And what happened was back in the late '90s, there was a craze of people would go up and they'd put their hands on something. Usually it was a car or some kind of something that everybody wanted. Like I said, a car, a motorcycle, something like that. And you'd have to stand there until everyone got last person standing there. Well, someone drank a bunch of water so they wouldn't be dehydrated or hungry or whatever, and then didn't go to the bathroom and ended up in the thing. Dude, that is such a crazy instance that, like, and for some reason here in 2024 we're still talking about, is it safe to drink this much water?
I have never even, I've never even discussed water poisoning specifically with any clients at all, which just goes to show you that it's such a, again, rare occurrence. It can happen, but it's such a non-issue in our field. When I talk about water intake with clients, most of them aren't, they might drink like something this size, one of them in a day, which is not enough. But I just tell them, drink a little bit more the next day, drink a little bit more the next day until you get to a full gallon. And it's not like a requirement to get to a full gallon, but just
I think that one of the things is if you tell somebody to get to a full gallon, and
scares me.
they're going to, at least if nothing else, they're going to start replacing their coffees, their sodas, their this, their that with more water.
Yeah.
And I think that is the thing. And some people, one of the newer things out there is to put a little salt in your water, or put some sort of electrolyte, which
Mm-hmm.
also. But again, stay away from sugary processed drinks. Limit, coffee is not the worst thing in the world. You shouldn't be drinking it every day, because you could develop resistance to the caffeine. But even a little bit of coffee is not the end of the world. Just drink water.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. Okay,
Yeah.
so another one that I've heard recently, and Meg brought this. Meg, I know you've heard this one because you actually added this one to the list. But I've heard this: if you don't sweat or you're not sore the next day, you did not get a good workout.
Correct. Basically, that no pain, no gain,
Ugh.
if you translate it quite literally, is a myth.
Right.
Um, I actually like that saying, no pain, no gain. But if you translate it quite literally to what we're talking about, where if you didn't sweat or you're not sore the next day after a workout, that it wasn't a good workout, and it's just not true. I rarely sweat when I'm working out unless I'm running or doing legs.
Mm.
Other than that, I'm not a big, I'll glisten, but I'm not a big like drip sweater.
Glisten.
Yep.
That's a good word.
Yep.
That's a good
I'll
word for it.
glisten.
I'm not a big drip sweater either, especially when it's colder out. especially when I lift.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more when I do legs, like you said. When I do cardio, I do done. I am not a big sweater. Just I never have been, except when I was really heavy. But again, that was a different issue. When I played sports, I was not a big sweater. And some people aren't. I have a client who is
The opposite.
the absolute opposite. I can have him do like 2 reps of a warm up set, and he's soaked.
Yeah, I mean, when I sometimes people get off the treadmill after their 10-minute warm up, and that's literally it's just a warm up, a brisk walk, just to warm your body up. And there's some girls that come upstairs that are dripping sweat already,
Right.
and that's just the way that their body is. And then there's also times when I say trained legs and I was like dying the whole time, like, oh my god, I'm gonna be so sore tomorrow. This is such a great lift, and I wake up the next day, nothing.
Sweating, I don't think. Not I don't think it does. Sweating does not equate, and some people equate sweating to the effort that you're putting into calorie burn. You're going to burn the same if you do the same workout in a meat locker versus outside in mid August. You're going to burn the same amount of calories.
Mm-hmm.
You've put the same lift the same amount of weight for the same amount of reps and the
Right.
same amount of all things being equal. You're going to burn the same amount of calories. Will you lose more water? Absolutely. Could you actually turn that in the summertime? Actually turn that into maybe even a few more calories burned because you're constantly rehydrating your body's constantly reprocessing water. Yeah, but it's going to be a minimal impact.
I was gonna say that's like really what the sauna does. That's another one that I didn't put on the list, but like sauna does not replace your cardio.
Oh
The
God.
sauna is literally just pulling water off of you, which is why bodybuilders, when they get close to the show, they will sit in the sauna literally just to peel water off of their body.
And it's let me and I'm don't misunderstand what we're saying. That's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But it's not replacing your cardio. It's not
It's
substitute
not
for
burning
workout.
extra calories, so it's definitely not doing anything for your heart. Like, because a lot of people just add cardio in for heart health.
Mm-hmm.
It's not doing anything like that. I mean, that there was a guy once that um
Actually,
he literally offered that my clients could use the sauna if they didn't feel like doing cardio, and I had to, do a double take. Like, what did you just say? Because those things don't translate.
so fun fact: if the more dehydrated you are, the worse it is for your heart. So your heart rate will go up, but not in a healthy
Gotcha.
cardio way. It's like so when I get dehydrated before I have to weigh in, I can feel my heart going like beating at a higher pace because you're dehydrated.
Yeah.
There's less water.
Yep.
Your blood pressure actually goes up
Mm-hmm.
because basically with your blood is thicker.
Yeah.
So um if I the soreness is another one. Like I'll be honest with you, I am especially in certain parts of my body, I am rarely sore.
I will say I'm rarely sore in my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. Just always have been that way. I just don't get much shoulder soreness, but
My
legs, every time I train legs, they will be sore.
So I have been very lately, and it's my glutes and my hamstrings have been sore.
Mm-hmm.
My quads, and I'm actively trying to increase power in my legs, so I'm actively doing extra sets on quads exercises, specifically on leg extensions, wall sits, box jumps, things like that, pushing a sled, and my quads just do not get sore. Now, has my squat gone up a little bit recently? Absolutely. Have I been felt stronger in my leg extensions and leg press? Yep, I'm feeling stronger, but soreness it does not has not come along with it.
Yeah. I mean, I would also even argue that um, higher rep and lower weight, it makes me more sore
Than a lower
than
rep.
yeah, lower
In
rep.
certain exercises, I agree with that. In
Yeah.
certain exercises, I absolutely actually in most exercises, I agree with that because you're again time under tension. But it is that yeah, and you're definitely and it's just like if you've ever done something where you've suddenly done a physical activity where you've done a lot of repetitive motion.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, the first time I ever went skiing, I was actually really surprised. I'm like, oh my god, my legs are gonna hurt tomorrow. My legs are gonna hurt tomorrow. My
And then
legs
they
didn't
weren't.
hurt, but you know what hurt? My chest hurt from pushing myself back up from falling. Because I
Yep.
probably, and then after I thought about it, I'm like, why are my arms and my chest so sore? And then I thought about it, I'm like, probably because he did 1,000 push-ups over the course of a day.
Yeah.
So we talked about sweat. We talked about what about your core? And this is the biggest almost myth to me because there there is so basically what we're talking about is does your core working your core slash abs or really any part of your body for that lose fat in that part of the body?
So I was going to word this differently and say core exercises will sculpt your abs, but that part is actually true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can so easiest way I can describe it is you can spot you
Increase.
can you cannot spot reduce fat, but you can target muscle gain.
Right. That is the best way to say that. And I have argued that for when someone say, "Oh, I need to flatten my stomach or whatever." The only way you're going to flatten your stomach is in the kitchen. Now, if I
Yep.
have someone who has a relatively thin frame or quote unquote toned body, Meg, for example, Carol, our other co-host, Carol has a flat stomach. If she said, "I want more ab definition," her diet's pretty on point. Would need to train her abs probably with weight because the abs are muscles just like everybody else. And I know bodybuilders sometimes jump on me for this that you shouldn't train your abs with weight because it makes them big and bulky.
I've heard a bunch of different things too. I've heard that mostly being obliques for
Obliques.
girls because you don't want that wider look.
So if you when I did a dive into that because I thought, well, that makes sense. Let me take this one out. Basically, your abs obliques, most of your core muscles don't carry the same capacity for growth
Mm-hmm.
that your biceps, your pecs, your quads, your glutes do. They just will not grow. They will get stronger. They will get more visible, especially if you're at a fairly low body fat level to begin with. But they're not going to get like you're never going to have bulging obliques like the way you have a bulging bicep or bulging
Right.
delts.
I mean, I would say I don't know Carol, but if she has a flat stomach now that's just not defined,
Yeah,
then yes, she would have to, train her core so that she can have
she has other limitations because she has.
a sculpted core, but she would also need to lose body fat
Yeah, she
a
would.
little
She
bit
would. She
more.
would have to. But even she's got other limitations too. I'm just using her an example because she
Right.
has the body type that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
She has RA as well, so her capacity for heavy lifting is not the same as
Right.
you. And she's older than me, so I think she's like 50. But so again, things aren't all the same. But she has that body type. That body type where someone would say, "I want to have visible abs." Then yeah, you would have to do an ab exercise, do some crunches, do some planks, do some sort of weighted rotation, planks, standing holds like Pavlov press,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Train with kettlebells. Train with an ab wheel is another good body weight exercise that I absolutely love.
I hate it.
What the ab wheel?
Yes.
Do you really?
It's probably because I'm not that good at it, but
It's
it's a great core workout. I just hate it.
yeah.
But I also have a limitation with my shoulder.
Oh, okay.
So like rolling out, my shoulder cannot hold me up. That's probably why I hate it.
I hate hip thrusts.
I don't like them either, which is odd because most girls
I
like
was kidding.
like
Most
hip
girls love
thrusts.
that. You're the first girl I've ever said. Most
No, I
girls.
hate training glutes.
Ugh. Um, Arms is another place though that you can really do that, and this is where it gets into that myth of you can spot reduce. You can't spot reduce fat, but you can target and increase muscle mass in certain places by working that muscle hard.
Mm-hmm.
Arms is another one, especially for guys. Guys seem to you drink a little bit more water and do a couple more bicep curls, your arms will get sculpted like that.
Actually, if you wanted to, so mostly is guys say this like arms.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted the appearance of bigger arms, would you train biceps or triceps more?
Triceps.
Most people think it's biceps because it's like, oh, like that's what appears first when you
First, right.
see them. Like when you flex, it's your bicep. Your triceps covers way more of your arm than.
Well, it does, and I was used. I I agree with you, but no, absolutely triceps do take up more of your arm, and actually once you now that you said that, once you do that, you will actually see more separation between your tricep and your tri in a flex position if you train your triceps more.
Right.
But it's fun. It's funny that you say that, because again, that's the other part of that is people talk about their arm definition and they're like, oh, I've been doing this, I've been doing that, and then they're targeting the wrong part of it.
Yeah.
We just talked about obliques versus your abs, and I hate when people use the word core and abs interchangeably.
The core involves so much more.
Right. Like that is, oh, I want to have a visible core. You mean visible? You want visible abs? You want a strong core?
Literally includes
core wraps
your
around
back.
Right. I was saying core wraps around the whole body,
Trunk.
and I think that, I'll be honest with you, when we talk about people talk about undertraining. As a matter of fact, I think that might be something that we talk about in the future. But when you talk about parts of your body that are undertrained for most people, it's that low back, upper glute.
Yep.
Learning to lift your legs above to your waist from a dangling position, like reverse hypers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I tell people, I've told people who are seasoned athletes or were seasoned athletes at one point to do a reverse hyper. They go, "What is that?" Because they've never, and they've never. And when I show them, and we don't have a reverse hyper machine at MadFit or Model A, so we have to do it. I do it on a box.
Mm-hmm.
And when I show them, they're like, "I'm not sure I can do that."
I mean, that I would definitely say it's definitely a neglected area that most people don't do. I was also going to say that I have a client who, she's getting ready for her wedding, and she is self-conscious about, it's an open back, and she loves the dress.
Okay.
And that's the dress that she's wearing, and she showed it to me, and she pointed out some insecurities, her insecurities wearing the dress. I think she looks beautiful in it. I think her back looks great. She expressed that she wants to tone her back. She wants to lose a couple, like, certain areas that like have extra fat that she doesn't want there. And I literally told her that, like, her diet's got to be on point. And I do have her training back twice a week, so that, and then also supplementing cardio, because as her body fat comes down, having her have like train back twice a week, tone those muscles more. It's not the back workouts that are going to burn, that are going to, make her lose body fat. I mean, lifting weights helps you burn body fat, but I was like, supplement cardio in, but train back twice a week, not legs.
It's funny, the calories that you actually burn during a weightlifting session is not, you can actually burn more calories doing a good cardio session.
Yeah.
You're just not going to have the same long-term benefits from it. So that is all we have this week. As we talked about some of these oldies but goodies. I will be back up north next week, so I want to thank Megan. And Megan, if you ever want to step up and come up to Pennsylvania and join us in Model A, in the Model A recording studio, I would be happy to have you. So when I have a topic I think that you're going to fit in, I'll give you a shout.
Sounds good.
And I'm not saying I'm never going to be back here again, but next week I will be back with Cameron, and we are going to talk about some undertrained parts of the body. So we're going to talk about, again, we'll talk about that low back and upper glute. We'll probably also hit a few other things that you probably aren't training right now because they're not as fun and they're not as visible. So join us next week. Until then, check out Meg at Beeline Fit on Instagram. Follow her, thedoworkfactory.com. Check me out, Rockstar Fitness on Facebook, dwebster023 on Instagram. Look me up at dudeworkfactory.com. And until next week, ladies and gentlemen, woo!